committed suicide?
Nah, I don't believe that.
So,
I don't believe because
So what do you believe? Because you hired an investigator?
Yeah, I hired investigators for it because I didn't believe, like, for Tiffany.
Excuse us, make way for it.
Chris Lighty's death is labeled a suicide.
Right.
I can't live with that.
I can't fathom that because this is the first I seen. You see, Nori, this is the first that was somebody. So I could never ever see Chris doing something to himself.
That's true, so your family feel you should do the investigation?
No question.
Okay, why is that?
I just feel that there's a lot of unanswered questions, and I need answers.
You need answers?
Yeah.
You don't feel like he took his own life?
Chris Lighty's new autopsy report receipts were just released by 50 Cent. Finally, we have evidence that Diddy was responsible for Chris's passing. This comes after 50 discovered that Diddy had thrown an odd ritual party for Chris's funeral and engaged a new private investigator. Furthermore, Diddy instructed the audience to create noise rather than observe a moment of quiet for Chris. That is satanic in addition to being disrespectful. 50 wants to get the truth about this once and for all because of this. You see, Chris Lighty was more than simply a renowned Def Jam music executive. For 50 Cent, he was like family. Additionally, 50 never believed the official account that Chris committed suicide.
The man who helped guide my career, both through the valleys and over the mountaintops, was gone.
50 Cent recently engaged a fresh private investigator to reveal the true cause of Chris Lighty's death. This time, 50 is committed to establishing Diddy's involvement in Chris's demise.
This has confirmed to me that at the request of Chris Lighty's grieving mother, superstar artist 50 Cent has brought in a high-powered team to investigate the hip-hop mogul's death.
Lighty managed the careers of superstars like 50 Cent and Diddy and orchestrated multi-million-dollar deals. But many of those who knew him still can't believe it was a suicide, as ruled by the New York City medical examiner. Former New York City medical examiner Dr. Michael Baden was called in by the family for a second autopsy.
In my opinion, the cause of death, clear as a gunshot wound to the head. The manner of death, accident, homicide, still is pending till all those tests are.
As a result, 50 is bringing this up again because Chris's name was used during Diddy's trial in RICO. The mainstream media, however, paid it no attention at all. Capricorn Clark, Diddy's former assistant, testified that she was fired by Diddy after she saw the entire Cassie and Kid Cudi event. Diddy's when the lawyer questioned Capricorn about her actions following her termination. She replied, "I was hired by Chris Lighty to work for 50 Cent." Now, during the U.S. Attorney's cross-examination of Capricorn, they questioned her. What happened with the job with Chris Lighty? Diddy's lawyer didn't bring up this matter or ask any follow-up questions regarding Chris Lighty. Additionally, she stated, "He passed away the day before I was set to begin. It wasn't about a job at Interscope back then. I was instructed to leave Puff alone." Mark Agnifil, Diddy's attorney, promptly raised an objection at that moment, and the judge upheld it. Why then was Diddy's attorney so concerned about is Chris Lighty being discussed by Capricorn? So Capricorn claimed that she was blacklisted because Diddy fired her. But Mark Agnelio also objected and the judge upheld her claim. It's obvious that something is wrong here. After Capricorn sees him violently assaulting Cassie and detonating Kid Cudi's vehicle, Diddy dismisses her. After Diddy fires Capricorn, she finds a new job with 50 Cent through Chris Lighty. However, Chris commits suicide the day before she was set to begin. This is weird enough on its own, but we're going to uncover something even more bizarre. Thus, this is the official account of Chris's passing. Chris's lifeless body was discovered outside his South Riverdale, Bronx residence on August 30th, 2012. He was shot through the head. Additionally, Chris's death was reported to have been self-inflicted by NBC New York the next day. The same report states that Chris was located at approximately 11:30 a.m. Additionally, according to a law enforcement source, he was discovered with a 9mm handgun beside him, face up on the basement's back patio. The media began to fabricate the story almost Soon after that, some said that Chris's large IRS debt was the reason he was despondent, but others claimed that just before he passed away, he got into a battle with his estranged wife, Veronica. 50 Cent and others who knew Chris well, however, refuted all of these rumors. In a subsequent Drink Champs interview, 50 openly stated that he didn't think Chris committed suicide. Additionally, he denied rumors that Chris was having financial difficulties. According to 50, Chris was actually doing very well financially because he had recently regained the money that he had lost. Additionally, he returned the $1 million he had borrowed from 50.
Chris basically managed you your whole career.
Yeah.
Chris managed me basically my whole career. I'm sorry to ask this question, but we were going to both ask this question. Do you think he committed suicide?
I don't believe that. He got money, but it was tied in the investments that he would have lost. He would have had penalties if he pulled out before the time period. So I said, I give you $1 million and you just give it back to me. You know, when the thing is like on the time periods, like we'll make periods and he said, all right, cool. He didn't even ask. I said I give it to you because it didn't make sense for me that we make too much money together for you to be under those. I'm not sure you're gonna work the same. Right. If you got that type of pressure on you, this is going to skip you. You miss it. They didn't miss no family vacations, no nothing.
All right.
Everything's happening the way it would happen at any other point. So. The crazy part is at the time that I'm actually getting the phone call from him, is me telling him, look, he's saying, yo, that's already dealt with. Because like time went by,
He's talking about what is it? When he say that?
He gave me back the $1 million, Lord.
Oh, he gave you back.
So the money that I had loaned him, the $1 million, at the time that right before he passed away, is us having a conversation like, yo, talk to your people because all that money, you know, I did that. That's dope. It's all back now. So tell me.
What amount of time is that? Like
that was
2 weeks later?
Nah, it's an 8-month time period.
Okay.
But in the 8-month time,
he gave it with the profit.
He put the money back. The $1 million back. So he said, "Yo, that's back. So why the you talking about financially being?"
Chris then secured the agreement for 50 Cent to embark on a world tour just before his untimely demise. According to a second source close to Chris, who verified this to Fox.
Sources also tell me that Lighty was not deep in a bottomless financial hole and that he had just secured a world tour for 50 Cent for next year, which would have brought him millions of dollars.
The idea that Chris committed suicide as a result of his divorce was also refuted by a number of authorities. This Daily Mail article claims that Veronica Lighty denied having a fight with Chris prior to his passing. Chris's family, meanwhile, didn't think he committed suicide. Additionally, Dave Lighty, Chris's brother, stated in an interview with Sway in the morning that all of the accusations of foul play were true.
You know, there's been a lot of rumors and things swirling around your brother's death. I'm not even going to ask you about that. Okay?
Well, the rumors are justified.
They're justified?
I believe.
Because the family feels the police closed the case too soon. Dave also stated that they were doing their own inquiry.
One of the things that people have been talking about is an investigation that's going on. Is that true?
Definitely.
That's true, so your family feel you should do the investigation?
No question.
Okay, why is that?
I just feel that there's a lot of unanswered questions, and I need answers.
You need answers?
Yeah.
You don't feel like he took his own life?
Nah. You know, I was with my brother almost every day. Till the last couple of months because I was going to school. So that's not my brother.
That's not in his DNA.
Not my brother. I know we were all going through stressful times. Everybody was. Shit, the economy is terrible right now. But at the same time, man, Chris was a go-getter. You know, the ultimate non-stopping machine.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just not something that I would see him putting upon the rest of us and everybody that he knows that looks up to.
Chris's cousin then asserted that there was no way Chris could have committed suicide. He even asked whether the NYPD mishandled the matter. NYPD just going on what they thought, Ad remarked. Nothing in the house reads, "I don't want to live anymore." For a long period, he was in the best mood. How could he possibly do such a thing? At that point, 50 Cent intervened and actually engaged Les Levine, a private investigator, to take up the matter. You see, 50 thought of Chris as family. Additionally, 50 frequently mentioned that without Chris's help, he could not have succeeded. You could almost sense the anguish in 50's voice as he described. The moment he found out about Chris's passing in his audiobook, Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter.
August 30th, 2012, I was in my office working on a promo plan for New Day, a track I'd just done with Alicia Keys, when I received an urgent phone call from a friend. He had devastating news. Chris Lighty, my longtime friend and manager, was dead. I had been standing in the middle of a bustling office, but when I heard the words "Chris is dead," it was like the noise around me suddenly turned off. "I can't believe I just heard you say those words to me," I told my friend. "Say it again so I'm sure I'm hearing you right." But there was no miscommunication, no mistake. Chris Lighty, the man who helped guide my career, both through the valleys and over the mountaintops, was gone. Even more devastatingly, I was being told that he had shot himself. That Chris Lighty, one of the smartest, most self-assured, and most motivated people I'd ever met, had decided to take his own life. To this day, it doesn't feel right.
50 chose to include Tiffany, Chris's daughter, in his will as a testament to how much Chris meant.
As soon as I learned he had passed, I made a vow that I would look out for Tiffany in his absence. I tried to live up to that promise, rewriting my will to include her. I'm so supportive of Tiffany that I didn't even flip when she knocked the mirror off one of the Lambos I let her drive. That's how you know it's love.
Chris was obviously much more than just a business associate in 50's eyes. When Chris first met 50, 50 was still out promoting his mixtapes. They clicked right away, and soon after, Chris founded Violator Management in 1996. He began managing 50. Violator previously featured well-known artists like LL Cool, Mariah Carey, and Busta Rhymes. In the late 1990s, Jay and 50 were added to the mix. Chris was in 50's and guided him through his profession from a fairly early stage. Given this, you can only imagine 50's reaction when he heard reports that Chris might have been taken out by Diddy. This is where things turn really gloomy. Leah Levine was employed by 50 Cent as a private investigator. Kay came to the conclusion that Chris did not commit suicide. "I guess it comes down to the question, do I believe that Chris killed himself?" Levine said on Fox News. And the response is no. Additionally, Levine stated Chris would never commit a financial or marital transgression. He had too many other options, Levine continued. 50 Cent then supported Levine's remarks and told Fox that Chris had just agreed to collaborate with him on a $4 million tour agreement just before he passed away. In the meantime, additional industry insiders began publicly expressing their disbelief that Chris committed suicide. On Drink Champs, Tony Yayo stated that he had known Chris for years and that the official explanation for his passing was illogical.
Lighty's death is labeled a suicide.
Right.
I can't live with that.
I can't fathom that because it's the first I seen with the G-Wagon. This the first I seen get fly. You know what I'm saying? This the first where we used to come to Violator. That's when it was, you know, they had Buster, they had Diddy, they had Foxy. I'm coming there, you see Freeway, you see Nori. This is the first that was somebody. So I could never ever see Chris doing something to himself. And he's always gonna get money because fucking when it comes to that G-Unit brand and that 50 brand, Chris Lighty and Violator play a major part in that.
Then, to in his 2012 obituary song, in which he raps about Chris Lighty, hip-hop shed a tear, and asked about Chris's passing. "My career was aided by him. Together, we accepted $1 million offer. What killed him? They say that, but anyone who knows Chris knows that the lies are untrue." Chris's family chose to have a second autopsy performed in the interim, but the findings of that investigation were never released to the public for whatever reason. What does this mean then? Was there a bribe? Why was there so much discussion about foul play? When several prominent members of the industry openly stated that they didn't think Chris committed suicide. Suddenly, however, the entire story simply vanishes. Yes, It's pretty obvious why. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Many people are conjecturing that Diddy exploited his power antes inside law enforcement to conceal the true evidence and fabricate Chris's death as self-inflicted. Here's a darker explanation for 50 Cent's current suspicion that Diddy was involved in Chris Lighty's passing. At one point, Chris was Diddy's manager as well, and Diddy went to Chris's burial. However, are you aware of what Diddy did the day? After Chris was discovered dead, he hosted a gathering. Not just any party either. He referred to it as the city's sexiest party. The event was held on September 1st, 2012. The Paris Las Vegas Chateau nightclub and gardens, and it went wild. Till the next morning, E! News claims that Diddy informed the audience that the celebration was a tribute to Chris, in case you found that strange. Diddy suggested that they all make noise instead of keeping a minute of silence. Instead of mourning the loss of his former manager alone, Sean Diddy Combs honored his late friend Chris Lighty with hundreds of guests at his annual Labor Day celebration in Las Vegas on Saturday night. He said, raising doubts about Diddy's strange remembrance. Additionally, E! claims that Diddy said to his partygoers, "We don't do moments of silence, we make noise for 3 seconds." And if you're thinking, this situation sounds like it's reminiscent of Whitney Houston, and it's really ritualistic. You are not alone, though. Sources close to 50 Cent are telling us that he hired a fresh private investigator to investigate Chris's death after hearing his name mentioned during Diddy's trial, as he worked on his next Diddy documentary, 50 apparently, began looking into the receipt himself. At that point, he learned that Diddy had thrown a strange ceremonial party the day after Chris passed away. However, allow me to present you with something truly horrifying. Diddy wore this ensemble to that party? At first glance, it might not seem like much, but look at the symbols on his t-shirt. This is the Star of Ishtar. In case you haven't heard of it, it is not a random symbol. Ancient Mesopotamian rites, sacrifice, goddess worship, occult power, and elite initiation are all associated with the Star of Ishtar. For millennia, people have used it to symbolize the passage from life to death. Additionally, it continues to appear in contemporary secret society-related media. For instance, Ishtar's star is frequently featured in the film Eyes Wide Shut, in which elites in masks conduct ceremonial rites. Regarding Diddy's involvement with the occult, you have undoubtedly heard by now that he practiced a variety of dark techniques, including animal sacrifice.
This is according to a former bodyguard that while on the way to receive the verdict back for this 1999 club shooting case, so, years ago, decades ago at this point, but Diddy allegedly made a pit stop in Central Park. He met a man and they allegedly took part in some sort of ritualistic killing that was supposed to bring him good luck.
Thus, the symbolism, the date of Chris's passing, and Diddy's fixation on destroying 50 Cent, everything was too close together. Additionally, Diddy's t-shirt for the Chris Memorial celebration featured the same emblem. After it was recently uncovered that Diddy used to host these strange full moon rituals for idol worship, many people are thinking that's too much to be a coincidence. Additionally, these customs would fall on the birthdays of Diddy's close friends and family members who passed away under dubious circumstances. According to Gene Deal, Diddy's former security.
I think that he had almost told off on himself when he spoke about the winter solstice. And that's when the pagans and people who believe in the cult was looking for that moon on 12/12 at 12 a.m. And they were doing spiritual rituals at that time. That's when that was going to be the last day of the full moon. And that means that the seasons and all that stuff has changed. But when you get into that spiritual realm stuff, it was when people did they went and they paid homage to certain sacrifices and homage to certain idols. And on the third day, they would drink, party, be merry, and the men would have sex with each other. If you don't believe it, look it up for yourself. It was the last day of the full moon. And because it landed on 12/12 at 12, that's when ritual sacrifices and prayers and everything was given to certain idols. And on the third day, they drank, they be merry and be happy, and the men would give gifts to each other and have sex with each other. So it was bigger than that. And he gave his day on my man's birthday, 3 days after the full moon, 3 days after the last moon, on 12/12, 12 a.m.